roast, and NMP tends to suppress production of acid in the stomach. Therefore, if you drink caffeinated coffee, darker roast will irritate stomach less than lighter roast.
All right, what is our conclusion?
Therefore, if you drink caffeinated coffee, darker roast will irritate your stomach less than lighter.
Yep, and what's our support for this, Cora?
I had to unmute. So at the very top, it talks about, gives you the background of darker roast, and that it contains that NMP. It contains more NMP than the lighter roast.
And NMP tends to suppress production of acid in the stomach, right? So do we?
The caffeine in coffee stimulates the production.
Yeah, the caffeine in coffee stimulates the production of irritating acid in the stomach. But if we roast the beans longer, we'll have more NMP, and NMP actually suppresses that. And so we're trying to say that decaffeinated coffee or drink, therefore darker roast, are less irritating than the lighter roast because the darker roasts have more NMP. What kind of question is this?
A strengthen?
No. This is an evaluate question.
Excellent. How do we handle? Do you know how we handle evaluate questions, Selena?
I've never done it, so no, I don't.
Pick
C. What?
What was that?
I said pick C. Just pick
C.
C.
When in doubt. What is that? When in doubt, see it out, or something like that. Okay, so evaluating questions, I used to really struggle with these, but these are my favorite because how we handle them is one, you can ask yourself before you can predict it by saying like, what would you think would be helpful in knowing if this is true or not? For one. And two, we'll start there. Did anybody predict a question that they think would be helpful in knowing?
Well, no, I didn't predict because I got this wrong. So now that you say that though, I would probably predict that for me does darker roast coffee contain more NMP because it's roasted longer? Because I don't feel like it was completely clear in the stimulus.
I think, but darker roast of coffee produced by roasting the coffee beans longer contained more NMP than lighter roast. I think you can assume that by that.
Okay then.
Do you agree with that? By darker roasted coffee produced by roasting beans longer?
But what about medium roast?
That's what I'm saying. I just don't know. Like if that was, I wasn't sure if they included like produced by roasting the coffee beans longer because they wanted to explain what darker roast meant, or if they were saying because of that factor, that's why NMP is less or more, I should say. But I mean, I could just be completely off base. I often do this.
Okay, so we're trying to say that if you drink caffeinated coffee, darker roast will irritate your stomach less than lighter roast. What would be helpful in us determining if that conclusion is true or not? What additional information would you want to know?
The length that it takes to roast, maybe. I'm trying to think of like if I had more information to know, like.
Why would the length matter? Why would you care about the length?
I think I
At
was.
what point does it become darker? Yes.
But you care. We're not trying to prove what time it becomes darker, though. We're just trying to say that darker roast will irritate your stomach less because it has more NMP.
Mm-hmm. I think I was trying to figure out like proportionality, like because I was focusing more on light roast. So I was like, okay, if light roast produces less, but is there like less to counter? Like, is there less stomach acid to counter?
I was wondering what amount of NMP is needed to counter the irritating, like the caffeine. Like, is this darker roast having this NMP, is it enough to counter the caffeine to make a difference? That was what my prediction was. Because what if it's like not enough to even make a difference, or even like feel like it might make a difference technically, but you still feel the same? What if just like a little bit of this irritating acid, it doesn't matter how much irritating acid you have, just a little bit makes you feel bad?
Right.
All right, so how I go about approaching these questions is we think about it as a strengthen and weaken question. So if the answer, I make up answers to the question, and if the answer would strengthen or weaken my conclusion, it's helpful. But if it does nothing to strengthen or weaken my conclusion, then I cross it out. So A, does extending the roasting time of coffee beans increase the amount of caffeine present in the brewed coffee? So if we said yes to that, would that strengthen?
I don't think so, because we're looking at the NMP, right? Not the amount of
Well-
caffeine.
Well, but what if extending the coffee time did increase the amount of caffeine present?
Then you would need more NMP to neutralize it.
Potentially, yeah. I like A so far. I would leave A open. Okay, so let's go on to B. Does a reduction in acid production in the stomach have an adverse effect on stomach function? So what if the reduction in acid did have an adverse effect on stomach function? Does that do anything for our conclusion?
Could it speed, are you talking about like if it could speed up the effect?
Don't try not to take this too far than what it is. So it's saying, does a reduction in acid production in the stomach have an adverse effect on stomach function? So if we produced less acid, would it have a negative effect on our stomach production?
No.
You don't care about function, just
You
irritation.
don't care about stomach function. Excellent, Katie. Like, what does this have to do with if you drink caffeinated coffee, darker roast will irritate your stomach less than lighter roast? We don't care about our function. And also the reduction, does a reduction in acid production in the stomach, how much coffee we drink doesn't impact. I'm sorry, wait 1 second. Does a reduction in acid production in the stomach, like not drinking coffee, essentially if we drink coffee, we have more production, right, of acid. But if we just don't drink the coffee, like we can't say not drinking coffee has an like we don't care about this adverse effect. So the difference is just not drinking coffee.
Mhm.
Do you see that? It's not like we're saying, oh, if you have less, even though it's saying does a reduction, you could still drink 0 coffee, right? This is, yeah, okay. C, would coffee drinkers who drink caffeinated coffee increase their coffee consumption if the coffee they drank contained less caffeine? What if
I
the,
liked this answer for a bit. I'm not gonna lie, I liked it.
okay, let's talk
But
about it then. Yes, so what if we said yes to this? What if we said yes, coffee drinkers who drink caffeinated coffee would increase their coffee consumption if they drank less caffeine? Does that have
So
anything
I
to do
thought-
with darker roast or lighter roast?
To me, it did, because in my brain, what I thought of is, okay, if you are used to drinking dark roast and then you suddenly try to drink lighter roast, that's going to make you need to drink more. So you might as well just drink more from the beginning. That's kind of where my brain was going.
Okay, but you see how you had to ask a second question to your question?
Yeah.
And that's where it went too far. We want just the answer of this question to strengthen or weaken it. So this answer alone does not strengthen it, because if I know yes to this, there's still more assumptions I have to make.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
it alone is not very helpful, because it is, you have more questions you have to ask. All right, D, do some coffee drinkers who switch from lighter to darker roast of coffee increase their daily coffee consumption? Once again, if we said yes or no to this, it doesn't do anything to our conclusion. Like, yes, they increase their daily coffee consumption. Cool, but that doesn't tell us that darker roasts irritate our stomach less. They're just drinking more. And then E, do lighter roast of coffee have an important health benefit that like, no, we don't care about these alternative health benefits. We're literally just talking about the, if they irritate our stomach less because of the caffeine available. So once again, if we go back to A, and if we said yes to this one, so extending the roasting time of coffee beans increase the amount of caffeine present. If we said yes to this, it would weaken our conclusion because we'd be like, well, maybe they're balancing out, right? Or if the answer to this question was no, it would strengthen our conclusion because we would be like, oh, they have the same levels of caffeine. This is the only thing that's different. And so that's why A would be correct. Do you see how I went about approaching that? Any additional questions? All right, number 17. Okay, Katie, do you want to read 17?